r/Askreddit. What is your guess I can't go into that store ever again story? I'm at a coffee shop, have a glass of coffee in front of me, filled to the top. That shit is almost overflowing. I raise my hand to get the waitress' attention because I want to order something else. I accidentally whack the shit out of the glass. This sends it flying across the room where it hits the waitress on the thigh and gets coffee fucking everywhere. Felt bad, so I left and never went back. Nice shot. Heard this in the Wii Sports announcer's voice. Cheering intensifies. Audience does a 360. Whoa. When you throw the bowling ball back at the crowd. For the 13th time this round. I sat on a Target shelf and the entire row of shelves crashed down onto the ground. Those shelves are not very strong at the wrong angle. They're made of made-in China metal, a uniquely pliable substance that fails when things like objects or air or photons or eyesight are laid upon it. Quote. Call it by its proper name, Chinesium. Also, by the act of looking up the correct spelling, till there is in fact r/Chinesium community here on Reddit. There truly is a subreddit for everything. Shit. Down the rabbit hole I go. When I was a kid, my family went to a pizzeria and before the food came I went to inspect the plumbing. They had those sinks where you press down on the knob and the water would flow, with the knob slowly raising back up before it would turn off after 20 seconds. I used my fist and hit the top of the knob and the thing just popped off and a huge geyser of water was erupting non-stop. Me and another kid were in there, we looked at each other and just bolted from the bathroom. I got back to my seat and just sat there silent. Then my mom went to use the bathroom. And when she came back she told us this story of how there was a pool in the bathroom hallway and the manager and an employee were in the men's room slipping and sliding trying to shut off the water. My whole family was laughing at the story, but I just sat there silent. They asked me what's wrong and I told them it was me that did it. They never fail to mention it every time we drive past a pizzeria, even now 20 years later. I've never stepped foot in one since then. Edit, since a lot of people are asking. Inspecting the plumbing was a joke my family made when I'd go to pee at a restaurant. I'd usually be a glutton about free drink refills, and would always have to get up and pee mid-meal, so my family always joked I was obligated to inspect the plumbing at every establishment. Dramatic silence. Ken T. You see mother. It was me. I did it. It was my fault. How do you expect me to live with that? A wild zanger in the early AM. What luck. I barely slept last night and I'm feeling somewhat wonky, so this is exactly what I needed. My girlfriend fist bumped the clerk when he was actually reaching to grab a paper we had just signed. Anyway, we don't go to the Tire Kingdom anymore. I fist bumped a cashier at a grocery store a couple days ago. He was just handing me my change. Never buying groceries again, it brings up dark memories. That just means keep the change. You're their new favorite customer, and they miss you. You filthy animal. Pew 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 ha 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 ha. This is a fond memory. Moved downtown to our university area. Got myself a sweet deal on a cheap, ghetto as fuck studio. The kind that get rented out to poor students next to the area homeless shelter. 2006, rent is only $300 a month, and I'm not in school. Too busy being punk rock and making just enough for a roof and partying. Paradise. 1 week in, I go to a show, get completely shithoused, and stumble back up the hill to either get more fucked up, or pass out at home. I decide to stop at the 7-Eleven directly across from my building, snacks. I grab everything my impulses and lack of inhibition tells me to and am about to pay for this garbage and be on my way. Set my things on the counter and politely introduce myself to the cashier, as she is ringing up my last couple things, without any kind of warning or rumbling beforehand. I am in excruciating pain, right in my gut. A split second flashes by, I clutch and clench my legs together. I gasped bathroom? Tour? It was too late 5 seconds ago. I try to take a step and bam. My bowels unleash with not only an ungodly sound from my ass, but a simultaneous yelp as if I were a chihuahua that had just been stomped on. I swear I have never been so suddenly sober without a cop being involved. I have shorts on, I look down, and just liquid shit down the back of my leg, into my boots, and starting to puddle on the floor. I just ran. No change. No snacks. No words. I lived at that spot for almost 2 years. Never went back, and never even walked across their lot to get anywhere. I would walk the same way around that place to avoid it every day. I feel terrible. Don't feel bad, dude. Shit happens. I feel bad about it now. I'm 30, was 19 then. I've cleaned up similar messes since that day. So yay. I'm pretty shitty, ha. Quote. I'm no expert, but something doesn't add up there. Source, I'm 30, was not 19 in 2006. Do barbershops count? Decided to get a haircut whilst having a cold. Sneeze and farted at the same time. Never went back. Oh god, I finally have a reason to share this story. One of the first jobs I had, I approached my boss in his office to discuss a report. As I was standing near him, he was sitting in his chair reading the file on his desk. I felt a sneeze come on. Knowing that I didn't have time to grab a tissue, I just turned away from him. However, the sneeze held off but the gas in my stomach did not. I crop dusted the poor man. Embarrassed, I whipped my body back around to face him and the centripetal force of my motion must have knocked my sinuses loose. I sneezed upon completing the spin but was in too much shock to cover my face. I gave my boss both an aura of noxious odor and mucus spewed across his face. It's 2 a.m. and I had to try so hard not to laugh out loud for fear of waking the patients. Night shift right now? Mortician. Oh, I fucking died at that. Went on a first date with this girl to a new restaurant in town. She proceeded to get sloppy drunk and made a huge scene. From the classic could not control the volume of her voice to insisting on trying to show me and some other gentleman nearby what kind of underwear she had on while loudly insisting that she's a good girl though. The server we had seemed to get that I was not a willing part of this but I was so mortified there's no way I'd ever go back. Well, don't leave us hanging, what kind of underwear did she have on? Red thong. She'd showed me some pictures on her phone and then remembered she happened to be wearing the same pair that she was in the pictures and wanted to prove it. Nice. I used to go to the same haircut place since I was in kindergarten until I was in my teens. One day I go for a haircut and get this new, fairly attractive woman. As she's starting I start to sweat. Now sometimes when I was younger my head would get really hot and my head would sweat when I was put on the spot sometimes, anxiety I guess, no idea, but it's mostly gone away thankfully. Usually a few drops of sweat will roll down my face when this happens, but not today. It was like someone was standing over me slowly pouring a bottle of water slowly over my head. It just kept going and going. Eventually the girl mentions, "Wow, you must be really hot." I'm already very nervous, and blurt out the first thing that pops into my head, "Yeah, it must be because you're pretty." I'm not sure why this is happening, you're pretty but it's not like you're that pretty. So pretty much as soon as the last words are leaving my mouth I start asking myself, why in God's name would you say that? Now I'm even more embarrassed and I have to sit through a haircut feeling like an idiot, a drippy wet idiot. Actual surveillance footage of me as the haircut was finishing. I spent the rest of the haircut praying for it to be done quickly or for a meteor to come through the ceiling and put me out of my misery. The girl handled the rest of the haircut like a goddamn pro, no idea why she didn't just kick me out. She finished, I paid, gave her a huge tip, and now I drive farther to get my haircut done somewhere else. This is the most painfully awkward thing ever, and I love it. I promise I'm a fairly well-adjusted person, and this easily one of the most embarrassing things that I have ever done. I still make a visible cringe face every time I think of the incident. In 1983 at age 17 I went into a pharmacy. I bought something and somehow I was given 50p too much change. I didn't say anything and left. To this day I've still not gone back. I have found guilty ever since. I went into a small shop to get a key made. I paid with a 10 and the guy carefully counted and recounted my change. Finally he handed me 15 bucks. I realized that he was illiterate and or couldn't read. I didn't know what to do or say because I didn't want to embarrass him, and I certainly didn't want him to lose his job. Apparently the boss was out running an errand and this guy was his assistant. So I just acted like he had made a non-illiteracy based mistake. "Oh, hey, I think you gave me the wrong bills, that's too much." I then made sure that he gave me the correct change. Then I gave him a cheery thank you. And left. It's weird, but nothing in life really prepares you for how to handle a situation like this. All I can say is that it was strangely embarrassing, for me. Quote. Genuinely asking, is illiterate the proper term for someone who can't identify numbers or do math with them? I have just always assumed that illiterate was for strictly not reading/writing. Never thought about numbers in that regard. I think it might be enumerate? I remember in primary school we were taught literacy and numeracy. If the opposite of literate is illiterate, maybe the opposite of numerate is enumerate. Specifically if they never learned, or just can't somehow. I think dyscalculia is difficulty with numbers, not complete inability. There are plenty of literate dyslexic people, like there are numerate dyscalculic people, if that's even correct English. You are exactly correct. Thanks for watching everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Experimental Journeys.